Welcome to Circle Back to You podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wilson. Today our guest is Jamarrea T. Anderson. He's a third-year student studying psychology and education at Morehouse College. He is passionate about fostering an inclusive and supportive environment and contributing to a culture of care that values diverse perspectives and collective growth. Jamarrea is the creator of JamTheEarth, a brand centered around authenticity, destigmatization of mental health in the Black community, holistic healing, and the creative expression of the Black man's lived experience. Welcome everybody to Circle Back to You. I'm your host, Jason Wilson. Today we have Jamarrea Anderson. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited too, man. Jamarrea is actually my Morehouse brother. He's an upcoming graduate of Morehouse College, class of 2026. I'm proud of everything that he's doing, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, man. So, like I like to ask everybody on the show, what was your childhood dream?
My childhood dream was honestly just to be great. I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. I kind of was changing kind of frequently because a lot of my inspiration for things that I wanted to do came from my mother. So it was like I seen her teaching. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go be a teacher. I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that. But after a while, I kind of found myself centering around let's push what is it like to be a Black man and what is it like to go through that experience from boyhood to teenage years to coming into your youth or young adulthood, and kind of going with that, like encouraging more of us to disclose that and let's talk about it more. Let's bring that to the forefront.
Okay. So, man, was it your dream to go to a historically Black college?
If you want me to be honest with you, I did not know. Like, I didn't know about HBCUs until I got to high school. And I honestly I didn't find out about Morehouse until my junior year. So once I really started to do more research on it and kind of get myself out here to see the school, I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be.
Yeah. Okay. So, what was the deciding factor?
Definitely scholarship. Because I do paying for school can be rough, man. So scholarship was a big one for me. And then just coming here and seeing the sense and feel of community that we have here was very pivotal in changing how I viewed things. As I started to go somewhere else, and then coming here for my official visit, it was like, yeah, this is the spot for me.
Okay. So, how many schools did you apply to?
Ooh, I applied to over 60 schools. I'm pretty sure I got into
Wow.
most of them. I got into
Is
most
that
of
right?
them. So yeah, this boiled down to 10 and then solidified a top three. And it was either here, Tennessee State University, or Harris-Stowe State University. And I settled here well, not even settled. I found myself lucky enough to be able to come here really, because this is
Yeah.
definitely an experience that I would not trade for the world.
Yeah. Me either. I applied to one school, and that was Morehouse. I don't know if you ever seen that movie, but School Days. That was a
Yes.
movie that I saw in the 11th grade, and after I saw that movie and saw that scene with the alphas, I
Mm.
said, "I'm going to Morehouse College." So, man, yeah, best decision I ever could have made
Definitely.
for
Definitely.
sure. So, how's your experience been at Morehouse so far?
Man, this experience has been very changing for me in terms of like just figuring out who I am and what I want to do with my life going forward. I've seen so many people, so many great people coming through here and just showcasing what it means to be a man of Morehouse, and then using that same build that we get throughout our matriculation and using it in their alumnushood. And it's just kind of like, wow, like this is really me, or it's gonna be me once I graduate in 2026. So yeah, I think overall it's just been very changing for me. So I've been able to develop myself as a leader. I've been able to grow in terms of who I am within my character and just build upon what I want to do going forward.
That's awesome, man. So, what are your long-term goals after graduation?
I'm planning on being a clinical psychologist, but obviously, going to grad school, getting that degree, and then opening my own practice, getting some work in the field, of course, before I do that part. But just building myself so that I can open that practice and be able to serve my community, because I know we don't really have a lot of Black psychologists, men to be exact. And I think I just want to add to that so that we have people that we can go to, because a lot of Black men don't go to therapy for that exact reason, because they can't find anyone that looks like them or might have any type of understanding of their experience.
Yeah, that's such a huge problem for our community, man. Let's talk about that because I
Definitely.
want to into this. Yeah, I want to get into this subject on mental health in general before we get there. But why are you passionate about mental health?
Well, growing up, I've had my own struggles or mental health challenges that kind of never really went noticed, because I did a pretty good job of masking it, if I say, or looking at it from my perspective, I did a good job of masking it. But I think, just experiencing that myself and then coming here and seeing it happening with other people, and just in general, not hearing people talk about mental health and not understanding that it's an important thing that's happening every day to people in their real lives. I think that's really sparked my interest in it, and just being able to give back in that sense, showcasing to the youth that it's okay to talk about your emotions, it's okay to understand your emotions and feel comfortable with having those types of conversations.
So let me ask you this, man: the students that you've run into with mental health issues, is it depression, is it anxiety, or other issues?
I feel like it's kind of mostly what I've experienced is probably anxiety, simply because there's a lot of pressures on us as Black men to be successful. And I think that
Yeah.
could build up over time and turn into us looking at things like, okay, I need to do this, I have to be this, I have to be that. If I don't do this, then that's going to happen. And this isn't going to be able to happen for me. And I know that can turn into this circle of, oh, I have to do this to be perfect. I have to do this to be perfect. I have to do this to be perfect. And that anxiety can in turn become depression. But for the most part, I think I've experienced people who've had or who have been experiencing more anxiety. Now, I can't really speak to
Okay.
it in like a clinical sense, but what it gives to me, or whatever people, when people come to me talking, they normally say anxiety. We have a few people who say they may be feeling depressed here and there, but I don't hear that as often.
Okay. So where is this pressure coming from? I mean, is it coming from social media or other sources?
Probably a good mix of social media and just society as a whole, to be honest, or really
Mm,
within the Black community for a good amount of people. We try to make sure that we aren't facing, or not facing, but we aren't encouraging the same statistics that are put on us. So sometimes that pressure to be better, that pressure to be great, can become too much for some people. Or even with social media, this idea that you have to have this influencer lifestyle or give off
yeah.
this same sense that someone with 30,000 followers on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, whatever the case may be, is having. And if you don't have that same experience, or you don't have that same, culture and lifestyle, then you're doing something wrong. So sometimes that can be another sense of, I need to do this to do this, or I need to do that to get better at this and showcase myself in a better light, or whatever the case may be. And that can create a lot of pressure, to me at least.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Of course, when I was at Morehouse, social media didn't exist, and I'm kind of glad it didn't, man, because I had enough pressure as it was just matriculating through Morehouse. I mean, it was hard, man.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that pressure that comes outside of class to matriculate through all the problems that we face, with graduating, going to class,
Mm.
and all the pressure, the social pressures that we had. It would have been worse with social media.
I definitely can say that that kind of adds to it sometimes. You have this pressure to be this student leader that you see in other people, and it can kind of create almost like an imposter syndrome, like I'm not doing enough. But most of the time, a lot of us are doing just exactly what we're supposed to do. You're giving what you can in the capacity that you serve.
Well, I think it's wonderful, man, what you're doing with mental health on campus. I haven't run into too many people that are actually doing this on the college level. So let everybody know what you're doing at Morehouse College for mental health.
So through JamTheEarth, I host workshops that are centered around creative expression and emotional intelligence, trying to encourage my brothers and honestly the community as a whole to do more in terms of understanding who you are, understanding how you're thinking and what you're feeling, and being able to put that into words or some other
Mm.
form of creative expression. So I do this. I know it's a couple of other students, not just here, but across the nation at HBCUs that are doing similar things to try to create more awareness around mental health and bringing more people out of that shell of I can't do this, I can't talk about this, making it more apparent that yes, this is something that needs to be discussed because it's important and it can help you in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have like support groups, or what do you guys do?
So we kind of just we do workshops. We have quite a few of them, or I do quite a few of them. I try to do at least two a month as of now. I haven't really been able to host my first one yet, but we're planning to do one soon. And just creating more spaces for us to have these conversations. We do a lot of collaboration with counseling services because they do workshops as well. Our primary goal, I say we do have like little circles or little groups that we get together in every now and again, but for the most part, we do workshops so that it can create more possibilities for us to do things like that, and releasing some of those obstacles and blockages within our minds that tell us, okay, nah, we can't talk about this. That's gonna have people looking at you weird or whatever else.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, so you have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I think that's awesome, man.
thank you.
To actually create a project while you're in school. Tell us about Jam the Earth.
So, JamTheEarth is a platform that is dedicated to mental health, creative expression, emotional intelligence, and holistic healing. So, with this, I turn, different situations, well, not different situations, but with this, I create spaces for us to talk about mental health, to be educated on emotional intelligence, and then for us to express ourselves in creative manners, whether that be writing, performance, or, anything involving the arts. And as an opportunity for us to learn about holistic remedies and healing methods so that we can kind of find meditation and mediation within ourselves as well.
Okay, so are you doing this primarily on campus or is it off campus?
It's kind of something that kind of just goes where I go, if that makes sense. Like I
Yeah.
do, majority of the work has been done on campus because this is where it started. This is the home base. But as I travel and as I go through my matriculation here and have the opportunity to go to different places, I take it with me.
Okay.
It's
All
more
right.
so of a physical representation of my passions. So I'm able to take that and utilize it in different spaces to showcase this is who I am and this is what I care about. And I want you to be able to, you know, relate with this or come in with this and understand so that you can take it with you a little.
I think that's great, man.
Yeah.
All right. So after you graduate, what are your plans to do with Jam the Earth?
See, I'm still figuring that out. I want to continue it, of course. And I kind of want this to be my primary programming, if that makes sense, so that
Hmm.
I have my clinical practice and I'm doing everything that I'm doing with psychology, but this is where my educational side comes into play. And I
Yeah.
utilize this to continue to educate the community and and equip the youth at the same time, having programs for them that are dedicated to empowering them and encouraging them to understand their emotions and continue to grow and develop with that understanding to be able to convey what they're feeling and
That's
release some
great.
of this toxicity that we have around it.
Yeah. Yeah. As a mental health advocate, have you had any mentors that have helped formulate your approach?
Absolutely. I work, like I said, with counseling services. We do a lot of collaboration. We have a lot of conversations. And even myself, I go through therapy and I'm watching my mental health as I'm trying to help everybody else. So I'm staying centered. And then I've worked with Silence is Shame, which is an organization here that also focuses on mental health advocacy and emotional intelligence. So we do a lot of work there, and we actually have a program this weekend called the College Fest, and it's focused on suicide prevention and mental health awareness.
Okay. Is this your first year doing that, or is this something that you do on a yearly basis?
I'm actually a part of the inaugural cohort of college ambassadors for the program. So this is our first year having it, but the plan is to continue to let this program thrive.
I think that's great, man.
Yes.
Yeah. So, when it comes to business, have you had any mentors or people that you look up to in the business community?
No, not necessarily. I've had a lot of conversation with my dad. He has a very entrepreneurial mindset as well. But in
Okay.
terms of anyone who's actually in the business and doing things for, like heavily right now, not necessarily. But I am open to finding that mentor or
Okay.
mentors.
Right. Right. I think that's really really important. There's several that I look up to as well. Let's talk about your dad. What kind of business does your father do?
So for he's a truck driver, but he's in the process of creating his own business out of that. And he talks with me and my siblings a lot about doing entrepreneurial type things and whether that's getting things together so that we can be great in the future or just working on things now so that we can have a set kind of foundation for what's going to happen moving forward.
Okay. So you have how many brothers and sisters?
I'm the eldest sibling. I have two sisters on my mom's side and two sisters on my dad's side and a brother.
Okay. So was there a tremendous amount of pressure to perform, to do really, really well in school as a kid?
uh, I would say
Because you're
yes.
you're an overachiever, bro.
I would say yes. There was definitely, I wouldn't say tremendous amount of pressure. It was more so there was a focus on ensuring that I was going to be great and wasn't going to fall to that same statistic of, oh, black men can't do this or black boys won't make it to 18 and whatever the case may be. More so being able to, allow myself to grow and be successful in life. And I think my parents did a very wonderful job of instilling those principles within me.
That's great. Just want to take
Uh,
some comments from the audience real quick. Your boy Evan Span said, "Let's go, Prez,"
Thank you, Evan.
and from Charles Walker, Jamaria, Jamaria, you are doing a good thing, and it is a need for it in our community, including our veterans that served. Is it your plan to do anything for veterans when it comes to mental health?
Well, with one of the programs that I'm working with, the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, they have a certification for mental health first aid. And there's also a version of it that is catered towards the veteran community. My goal is to get certified in that area so that I can continue to showcase, love to that community as well. And honestly, within my own programming, I want to be able to reach out. Of course, I got to do some more research and kind of get more intact or in touch with some veterans to kind of see what types of things they would like to see and what types
Right.
of things they would like to hear about so that we can have those discussions. But definitely want to reach out to the veteran community.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great too. Um, when it comes to mental health and your own personal situation, is this something that you experienced as a child or when you left home?
This was something that I experienced growing up. It probably started for me in middle school and
Mm.
kind of fluctuated up and down as I went out through middle school and through high school. And then once I got here, it was like a settled kind of point because by that point I've reached an understanding of what I need to do to kind of get through that and what I need to do to, recenter myself. And then, like I said, I'm doing counseling now for my own mental health to make sure that I'm okay.
Well, I think that's great because, when it comes to seeing, a full load of clients every day, you can take on some of those issues that your clients have. And it's kind of
Right.
hard to separate yourself from those stories. So I think that's great that you're going to a therapist as well. I actually have a mental health officer at Circle of Friends Club, and she said that that's one of the most important things that you can do is to seek therapy yourself.
Right.
Um, yeah. Have you run into any other therapists that have mental health issues themselves?
I honestly, I probably want to say that everyone that I've spoken with that has some sort of connection to the mental health field or mental health in any way, form, or fashion has
Mm,
had their fair share or experience with mental health, whether they experienced the challenge themselves or they witnessed someone else going through it, which could have kind of bled over and managed or not managed, but it bled over to them as well. So
right.
I'd probably say just about everybody that I've met so far who has had some sort of involvement with mental health has had, some type of experience with it.
One of the conversations that we've had, like over the past week and the beginning of this week as well, has been about childhood trauma and
Hmm.
how to overcome that. I'm sure, man, that there's a lot of brothers at Morehouse and all the other HBCUs that have had childhood trauma. In your opinion, what are some of the things that people can do to overcome those issues?
I want to say the biggest thing that we can do, in my personal opinion, what's helped me the most is being able to have those conversations about what went on either with a counselor or talking with your parents. Because a lot of the times our traumas can come from our parents,
Yeah,
unintentionally, of course. But having those conversations with them can allow us to create more of a, okay, the same way you were growing up and learning life, I was doing the same thing. So give a little grace to them at the same time, but also be willing to have those conversations so y'all can come to some sort of you know understanding of each other. This is how I'm feeling about this, and this is how this is affecting me, and go from there. And then having those same types of conversations with your therapist to kind of unpack what's happening to you or what's happening with you now, and how it's or what's happening to you in your past and how it's affecting you now.
man. I don't know what kind of discipline you received as a kid, but in my case, I mean, it was a standard belt, switch, extension cord. Sometimes, man, my dad would just grab anything he could find when it came
All
to
right.
discipline. How was the discipline handled in your house?
I had parents that were pretty strict on me growing up for the most part because I was their firstborn. Now, I might have gotten a whooping or so with a belt every now and again, but that wasn't a very frequent thing because conversation was always enough for me. Because
Mm.
there were enough people who I was like, okay, I don't want to make them mad. I don't want to get on there. I don't have nobody mad at me for the day because I have a lot of empathy. So when someone is upset, it kind of makes me feel bad sometimes, or it did when I was younger a lot.
uh,
As soon as somebody else is upset, I was like, okay, I gotta go fix whatever I did, or I gotta go do this. So it was more of a we could have a conversation, and I could be understanding of what was going on. There wasn't a very heavy need for me to get like a whooping or anything like that, but
mm.
conversation was always pretty heavy for me.
Yeah, see, growing up in the 70s, 80s, it was a completely different story, bro. You fortunate you didn't go through that. And even with my own kid, my kid will be 15 October the 1st. So,
Okay.
with him growing up, I always had a conversation. I didn't want him
Mm,
to go through the same disciplinary actions that I went through as a kid. So,
right.
I think, discipline has definitely changed over the years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's continuing to change. Honestly, those conversations are getting less. What's the word? Strong and a little more passive, almost. But it's still that same understanding is there.
Yeah. I think what definitely helps too, man, is all the information that we have access to, like
Hmm.
emotional intelligence that didn't exist when I was a kid,
Right.
but
Right.
it exists now. What are some other tools that you see yourself using with your kids in the future?
Mm, Maintaining an open sense of communication for sure.
Yeah.
Conversation is going to be good, but I feel like as long as it's open, meaning it can go both ways, I can hear what they need to say and they can hear what I have to say. Establishing pretty good boundaries around things that we want to see within the household. So, like, yes, you might could do this, you might could do that, but at some point you realize that there's that space that you don't need to cross because then you're overstepping that boundary. And just having an overall understanding of each other. I feel like a lot of us have that, not to say that you're going to be friends with your child, but also making your child feel safe
Hmm.
within the household so that they feel comfortable with talking to you and having conversations with you about tough things.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point, man. Making your child feel safe. I tell my son all the time, listen, I don't care what's
Mm,
going on. You can always come to me and talk about whatever it is that you're going through.
definitely.
Yeah. So completely different subject. You're in Atlanta, of course.
Mm.
What's your opinion about Atlanta? I mean, how is life there? Because I haven't been there in years. Tell me about that.
Atlanta's busy, man. It's so busy. I think one of the biggest things that I just cannot stand here is the traffic. Like
Yeah.
everything else is cool. I enjoy the people. We have a nice time here. And the community vibe is amazing. But the traffic, the traffic is treacherous. It's treacherous.
Well, okay. Do you see or on a daily basis? Do you
Mhm.
leave campus and go other places, or do you spend the majority of your time on campus?
I probably spend the majority. I don't have a car down here, so I probably spend
Oh,
majority of my time on campus. When I do go off campus, it's more than likely for like community service or if I need to go to the store or something of that nature, or just going to be out in general every now and again just to get off campus with some of my friends or something. But I spend a good majority of my time here.
do you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm an
Well, how?
RA, so I have to be present.
Yeah, yeah. You got to be there.
Yeah.
Well, how's the safety around the AU Center now?
I would say it's strong. I think everybody has their moments. We are in kind of a rough area from time to time, but I wouldn't say that we have a weak security system. I think it's just this is an area where things can be a little hectic at times, but they do a very good job of managing that and keeping us safe.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, the AU Center is the Atlanta University Center. So, within that, you got Morehouse, you got Spelman, Clark Atlanta University, Morris Brown College. My son wants to go to Morehouse. So I wanted to
Right.
ask you, yeah. So I wanted to ask you that question though, because of course that's a huge factor in me sending him
Definitely.
all the way
Definitely.
to Atlanta to school.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
think he'll be fine. He'll be fine. We got him.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Any last words for our audience and brothers and sisters at HBCUs when it comes to
Uh,
mental health?
just continuously be mindful about what you're doing and how much stress you're putting yourself under because you can start taking on so many things and forget that those things are happening. And once you have this happening, that happening, next thing happening, all this stuff is happening at the same time, you find yourself getting strung out. So just be mindful and remember to take a break, and it's okay to rest. Rest is so crucial. Oh my goodness. I'd be forgetting the rest sometimes and I'd be looking at myself like, you got to get it together. But rest and making sure that you're just taking care of yourself because at the end of the day, if you don't take care of you, nobody else will.
That's great advice. So, what are some of the things that you do to relax?
I practice meditation and yoga. I try to get up in the morning and do it before I start my day. Basically, just being practicing mindfulness throughout the day. So taking times to separate myself from what's happening and just take deep breaths and kind of recenter myself, being grounded. And yeah, I enjoy being out in nature, so I try to do that as much as I can.
Great, great. Jamarea, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I would definitely like to have you back on future
Absolutely.
shows. Yeah, you're doing some wonderful things at Morehouse and in your life in general, man. I'm proud of you. Keep
Thank
doing what you're
you.
doing.
Yes, sir. I look forward to being back.
Awesome, man.
All
Take care,
righty.
everybody.
All righty.